Hello again. I'm your host, Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, joined by Blake Lovell and Max Barr as we set out to preview 5 SEC basketball games. You're saying, wait, they're playing more than that on Saturday. That's right. We have previewed Kentucky Vanderbilt and Tennessee Auburn in separate videos. That leads us with Mississippi State, South Carolina, and we'll be doing them in this order. Texas A&M at Texas, Georgia at Florida, Ole Miss at Missouri, LSU at Alabama, Oklahoma at Arkansas. Let's start in Colonial Life Arena, Columbia, South Carolina, where Mississippi State faces a South Carolina team that just cannot catch a break. Carolina is this close to knocking off Auburn, Vanderbilt, and Florida in order. Couldn't do it. Max Barr, start us off with this one. Where's your head on this game?
My head is I'm not worried about my head. I'm worried about South Carolina's heads and where their confidence is at and kind of where their focus is at. Last night after, as we record this on Thursday, after South Carolina just gets heartbroken at the buzzer, Lamont Paris was asked, if he's worried about the losses compounding in his player's head, now 0-6. And he was like, yeah, I certainly worry about that kind of stuff. And we're talking about that. So you just gotta feel for the guys after they've lost by 3 to Auburn, 3 to Vandy, and now 1 to Florida. And now you just got to turn around, pick yourself up. And you've got a Mississippi State team who you're not catching them in a good spot either. They're losers of 3 of their last 4, coming off of a road loss against one of the most physical teams in the league, Tennessee. So tough spot here for South Carolina, needing just to get on the board here. They're going to be catching Mississippi State team who's coming in focused and pretty pissed off, to be honest.
Well, I mean, South Carolina has had some close calls. After the Auburn game, they went on the road. The next game, lost by 3 at Vanderbilt. After that game, they went on the road and lost by 20 at Oklahoma. So it's like there's not really a consistency, I guess you could say, after like one of these just really close losses that we can lean on and say, well, they either play good or play bad afterwards. I mean, it's kind of gone both ways. So Mississippi State comes in, as we've said, a team that has lost 3 of 4. They're feeling like, all right, we certainly don't feel like we can afford to drop another game right now based on the way like the SEC race is going. You're sitting there at 500 in league play now after a good start, which let's not forget, one of those good starts included starting SEC play with a 35-point win against the same South Carolina team. Now you go on the road. Can you replicate that same performance? It's probably going to be difficult because, again, it's just South Carolina just is doing this at home right now, right? Like they are just playing everyone close, it seems like. And so it's a pivotal game for both teams, really, I think, when you look at it, because after this, Mississippi State has Alabama, Missouri, and then they start to get back into, some of the games on their schedule that can be a little tricky, and they've already lost 3 games. So, yeah, I just want to see, like, what's different from last time around. These two teams played 3 weeks ago. Like, what's going to be the difference? South Carolina couldn't shoot the ball into the ocean, 2-19 in that game. They turned it over 14 times. Mississippi State just kind of got what they wanted offensively, 73% from 2 in that one. And so I want to see what is going to be the difference for South Carolina. It was kind of the Zachary Davis game, which I feel like we've had multiple of those recently, but there just wasn't a whole lot more. And so can Mississippi State do that same thing? It's Colin Murray-Boyles, 5 points, 10 rebounds, 6 turnovers in that game. If they can, they're going to have a chance at success here.
Max, do we have any idea of the availability of Jamari Thomas for South Carolina? And by the way, we're doing this Thursday morning. And Kanye Clary from Mississippi State.
I got nothing on Clary, but Thomas is being targeted to come back next week. Maybe that Tuesday game against Georgia. Would really expect the Saturday game against A&M. I don't think he's going to be ready for this game.
Yeah. Picks and why?
I don't think this is going to be like the first game. I think South Carolina is playing a lot better, a lot tougher. I honestly give them the edge in the front court right now. I mean, they have Pringle, Murray-Boyles, even Bozeman's Verdonk, a little bit of Zachary Davis. They have out-physicaled the other front courts past few games now. It's not like it was just, one home game they really got up for. They had a ton of energy in it. Pringle and Murray Boyles have been pretty dominant lately. It's been the backcourt that has not been up to speed. Dead last in the league in turnovers. Offensively, I think Mississippi State comes in here ultra focused. It's going to be tough. I don't think South Carolina is going to get blown out here, but I'm going Bulldogs.
Yeah, the Gamecocks are due to get one. And this is a spot where you think, hey, maybe they've hung tough with teams, but we've seen it once, and it didn't go well the first time. I just don't think this is the spot, so give me Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, the one team won by 35 last time. Have I seen enough to change my opinion on the matchup that much? Again, I don't think it's going to be like that again. But you just wonder, South Carolina from a mindset standpoint after losing another close game, do you have a little bit of that hangover effect? So I'll go Mississippi State too.
All right, speaking of rematches, we got another one coming up with this next game. Texas A&M goes to Texas, the Moody Center. Both teams coming off wins. Texas got a much-needed win over Missouri. Texas A&M just flat out stole one at Ole Miss. You got Wade Taylor back now. These teams played back on January the 4th, and A&M won this in convincing fashion, 80-60. Max Barr, start us off. What catches your eye here?
It's going to be interesting to see how Wade Taylor is, because we've been waiting for him to get back, and now he's back, but he's clearly not himself. A little bit more passive than you normally see him, letting the other guards do a lot of the work, playing through a little bit of feral pain. So I'll be interested to see if we start to, if Wade starts to progress and get his flow back. But it's going to be tough against a Texas team that guards the three-point line pretty well. They're just lengthy, just tall, scrappy. And so that's going to turn this thing into a good old-fashioned dogfight, which I think A&M has the edge there. However, it's in the Moody Center. And Moody Center is a tough place to play. You saw Auburn almost get knocked off. You saw Tennessee almost get knocked off. Missouri just couldn't get it done. A few things go a different way in some of those early January games, and we're talking about Texas as one of the hardest places to play in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, A&M was up by, 20? They won by 20, but it was kind of just that game where you didn't really feel like it was much in doubt after that first little stretch early on where Texas got off to a good start the last time they played, and that was, again, over 3 weeks ago now, I guess. A&M got to the free throw line. They worked their magic there. And I think, that's the same thing here, right? It's the same sort of formula. We know what A&M wants to do. They didn't do it against Ole Miss. We were kind of like, how do they win that game? Only getting the free throw line 9 times. But you feel like this is still going to be the same kind of thing for them. They're going to try to get to the free throw line. They're going to attack Texas in the front court. And that's what I want to see is, can Texas, who we've talked about, maybe the biggest question we had about this team coming into the season was about just the front court rotation and how that was going to play out. And I think especially now against a team like this that will just get after you, as we know, like A&M does, what does that look like here in this rematch? And what are the things that, Rodney Terry and company can take away from that first game and try to tweak a little bit to be the difference here? Because A&M is still kind of like that team that, even though their offensive numbers are ugly at times, they're still doing a lot of good things offensively, especially on the glass. And look, they're still just a great defensive team. So, look, I feel like a lot of the matchup numbers-based stuff is certainly in Texas A&M's favor here, but it's a road game in the SEC, and even though A&M just came off of winning one of those, Texas is a team that I think we all agree is trending in the right direction right now.
Picks.
Texas A&M did just win a road game against a good team. It's hard to win 2 road games in a row against 2 good teams. And when you look at what Texas has done, I cannot emphasize the Moody Center enough. It's a tough place to play. They didn't have it going early in the year. Things are rolling right now. That place, especially for the A&M game, you want your revenge. That place is going to be absolutely electric. When you look at the matchup in conference play, A&M's defense has given up a ton of points from three. They pretty much, if you want to score on A&M, half your points are coming from three right now. They're giving up the most point distribution from three, least amount of points from two. Well, what does this Texas offense do? They barely shoot the three ball. They're 13th in the league in points from three. They get to the free throw line and they score from 2-point range a lot. I think that plays right into Texas A&M's defense. They are a tough team to score on inside. They just held Ole Miss to only 13 twos that whole game. I'm going to go A&M on the road here, and what I think's a grinded out, scrappy one. I think they win this game inside.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Max said. I just think this is such a tough-minded old team. It can just enforce a lot of what it wants to do on other people. Doesn't shoot it well, but it gets so many offensive boards that it just can overcome that. And by the way, they're due to have better games out of some of their guards than we've seen. Give me A&M, not a super high level of confidence about it, but I'll take my chances.
Yeah, look, Texas 87-82 lost to Auburn, 74-70 lost to Tennessee, 61-53 win against Missouri. You know, it's just like every game they play there is close, and I feel like it's probably going to be the same thing again. And, you know, I have to make a decision here. Is this where I veer off course to try to get back into the picks lead, or at least tie it back up with Max? Is this where I try to veer off course? It's not, because I saw this game the first time around, and I think this is a game of matchups, and I just think Texas A&M front court is the difference here. Give me the Aggies, and we'll just keep putting the Southeastern 16 kiss of death on everyone so far. So.
2:30 in the Stephen C. O'Connell Center, where you can get tickets for as low as $64. Georgia faces the Florida Gators, 2:30 Central on the SEC Network. Boy, did both of these teams either even have their last games in different manners last time out. One wins basically at the buzzer, the other loses basically at the buzzer. Max Barr, start us off. Where do you want to go with Georgia, Florida?
Man, we've been talking about South Carolina as a team that's heartbroken. Georgia, 2-point loss to Auburn, 3-point loss to Arkansas, and that Arkansas 3-point loss, but I mean that was the last possession. It was a final game. It was a 1-point game. So they're going to be as desperate as ever. However, on the road here for Georgia, just the offense has not traveled. Just this past game, 65 points in Fayetteville. The previous road game, 56 points against Tennessee. No shame in that. Not many people are scoring a lot in Tennessee's building anyways. But you go the road game before that, 51 points in Oxford. They have not been able to score on the road yet in SEC play, and now they face a Florida defense that has been questioned, but is certainly not a bad defense.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, they've been questioned a little bit, but I think they've been questioned against high-octane offensive teams, and Georgia just has not been a high-octane offensive team right now. Because, like I said, you can just point out the last three games, right? Tough matchups, tough spots to be in. You know, even at Arkansas, I know people will be like, well, come on, it's inexcusable. You can't use that. We said, I mean, sometimes this game's about just a matter of back against the wall, a team finds a way, and Arkansas just found a way in that game. But it doesn't make it any easier for Georgia now coming in to play this Florida team. You feel like it's going to be a bit more focused after the South Carolina, near loss. They find a way to win it. But, yeah, I mean, Georgia, 51 points, 56 points, 65 points. Like, those are their road performances this year in the SEC. And, I think Tennessee and Ole Miss are maybe better defensive teams than Florida at times? Yes. Of course, I think Tennessee is. I think Ole Miss, the numbers probably say yes. But, again, Florida's a pretty good defensive team. And so I think it sets up to be a challenging matchup for Georgia, given what we've seen offensively from them. And, yeah, I do feel like this is kind of that bounce-back spot. Maybe giving away my pick here, probably no surprise. But I'll give you a reason why it may not be so obvious in a second. But I think this is kind of one of those bounce-back spots for Florida because, right, I mean, look at them in bounce-back spots before where, I mean, the loss at Kentucky, they bounced back and beat Tennessee by 30. The home loss to Missouri, they bounced back and beat Texas by 24. And I know they beat South Carolina, but it's still like it's that performance-based drive. I think this is a setup where they can bounce back and have a really good performance here.
Picks?
I'm joking.
What are you doing here?
No, you didn't.
I didn't want to do anything. Yeah, I'm going with the better offense here. I could just, the more trusted team. Give me Gators. Not much to it.
Yeah, Florida's bigs can match up pretty well with Newell, I think. He'll still probably have a day, but when you get to the guards and the firepower, again, Georgia's are good, Florida's are great. Give me the Gators at home.
Well, what do you know? It's time to recall our guy, Winston Churchill, who we've quoted multiple times here over the past couple weeks at Southeastern 16. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Now is the time that we bring out the wisdom from Mr. Churchill himself. And that wisdom tells you that Florida has, I believe, let me see here if I can count. We all know the answer to that. Florida has won 11 straight in this series. Ooh. 11 games in a row. However, let me also tell you that 5-point win, 6-point win, 4-point win in overtime, 10-point win, 8-point win or 7-point win, 9-point win, 7-point win, 8-point win, 6-point win, all in that stretch. So they've been right there in the series history with the Florida Gators. And guess what? We've seen Florida lose at home, have we not, here recently to Missouri. But I just wanted to get the Winston Churchill quote in there. I'm picking Florida in this game.
Thanks for the suspense. Maybe the most interesting game of the day, at least in this video that we're discussing. Missouri hosts Ole Miss, both coming off disappointing losses in their last outings. Speaking of teams deep with guards, both these teams certainly are. Max Barr, start us off. What are the big talking points on this one?
Well, I think this is one of the best games of guard play. Really, anytime we talk about Ole Miss, it's just going to be a fun game of guard play, just because they have so many different ones they throw at you. And it just so happens that Missouri's got a lot of the same stuff that they do when it comes to turnovers, being nasty, physical, denying into the lane, swiping at balls, getting out and running. However, there is a pretty stark difference in the guards' aggressiveness. Ole Miss offense dead last in the SEC so far in free throw rate, whereas Missouri, we know, up near 50%, third in the nation. And just to give you an idea of how big the difference is, so far in SEC play, Missouri's free throw rate, basically it's their free throw attempts per field goal attempts, 46% for Missouri, 28 for Ole Miss. I mean, that is a drastic difference in how these teams get to the line here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game I think that will be decided by turnovers. Like, I think sometimes the game's pretty simple, and it's just like which team is going to be able to do their thing defensively, because both can, in terms of forcing turnovers, disrupting everyone else's offense. And I want to see, can Missouri do that well enough here against an Ole Miss team that just has done a really good job of taking care of the ball, even though we point out some of the, the outliers in those performances. But I do think that's it, because I feel like, both these teams don't mind getting their guards out in transition and trying to get some easy baskets. Their bigs running the floor, which I think, guys like Mark Mitchell and Malik Dia, we know what those guys are capable of. And so I think that's what it comes down to for me, is just what can the other do that they've done so well this season in terms of forcing those mistakes on the other side and then turning that into easy offense. Because I think easy offense, could be hard to come by at times in this game. So yeah, I think that's certainly one of the bigger storylines. And as usual, I think the storyline for Missouri is just, getting to the free throw line. That has just been something we've said that they just do such a good job of. And in a home game, you would think that, you may have some opportunities to do that. So
I think the point guard matchup is going to be kind of interesting here. Sean Padula's played a lot of ball. Anthony Robinson has been one of the league's breakout stars. Missouri's got Tony Perkins, who's handled the ball a ton during his career. Caleb Grill, who's not a point guard, but does a lot of stuff. but Ole Miss is deep at guards too with Murray and Matt Morrell. Speaking of guys that have played a ton of ball, anything stand out to you as these two teams match up in the backcourts?
I think the only difference is Missouri's backcourt is a little bit more physical minded, a little bit more aggressive, get to the rim, whereas Ole Miss is a little bit more of, give me an inch of space and I'm shooting a three type of deal.
Yeah.
Well, and look too, I think for Ole Miss, like it's if you take the losses this season, right? And some of these are, whether he plays or not, it's going to be difficult. But if you take some of the losses, like look at Caleb Grill's performances in some of the losses for Missouri. Like go back to the game one, right? He plays 28 minutes, goes 0 of 4 from 3, 4 points, 5 turnovers. So, game one back, it is what it is. Didn't play in that game against Illinois. We talked about that. They lost by 3 there, even without him. At Auburn, hey, he goes 0 of 3 from 3 in that one, not his best game. But as we said, that's the case for a lot of teams at Auburn, right? And then, the Texas game, 1 of 5 from 3, scores 6 points, plays 29 minutes. So I think, that's the thing. And Chris Beard, they're going to be keying in on that, knowing that, hey, these guys, we've talked about Bates and Robinson and Mitchell and everybody else. But, when Caleb Grill gets going, we know that that's what can send this team into a different stratosphere. We saw that against Florida. And we've seen that at other times too. And I just think that's the key here is what is Ole Miss going to do to try to take away those good shot opportunities from Caleb Grill. If they can do it effectively enough, then I think it's advantage Ole Miss. But, how does Missouri, how does Dennis Gates and company find ways to get him those kind of shots? Because if they get him going early, we know what that can mean for this Missouri team. That ceiling is sky high if that happens. So I think that's certainly something to watch for.
Are we ready for picks?
Man, this is a tough one. It's a tough one. Because when you look at it, I like two things on each side. I do. I think Ole Miss is going to be able to win the turnover battle. I think they're going to be able to take care of the rock better offensively, and I think they're going to be much better defensively at forcing turnovers. However, I think Missouri is going to win the free throw battle, and I think they might get a guy like Malik Dia in foul trouble or Dre Davis, Breakfield. What would that do to change the Ole Miss offense that's been so reliant on Dia to do that? So I like angles at both. I think it's going to be rightly a pick 'em. And so what I'm going to lean on here is the Ole Miss defensive splits in SEC play so far. When you look at their point distribution, I really like to look at the point distribution for matchups. And Missouri's offense compared to Ole Miss's defense, it's a complete flip. Missouri's getting all their points from threes and free throws. Dead last in the SEC right now in points from twos. And you look at the Ole Miss defense, completely flip that. They're letting up almost nothing from three. They are not fouling. And then if you want to score on them, you're going to have to do it over a contested inside shot. So I'm going to lean here on the Ole Miss defense. I think they've been knocking on the door. I think you can make an argument that they deserved to win the past 2 games. I think maybe less of an argument for the Mississippi State game as they were down most of that. But still, I think they could easily be one of the hottest teams in the country here had a play gone differently. I'm going to take a chance on a road underdog here and go with Ole Miss.
I thought about it too. Feels like the situation where Ole Miss lost that game the other night is a prime Chris Beard, get your attention. We know we're better than this game. The 3 separators to me, I just think Missouri's got a little bit more offensive upside. I think Mitchell could be a little bit of a matchup issue for Ole Miss, and when in doubt, the home team. I'm going Missouri, but degree of confidence not great. And that has very little to do with Missouri and a lot of what I know Ole Miss is. Even though Ole Miss hadn't played as well since the Alabama game, they just reminded us they're capable of going winning in a building where people don't win a lot. So I'll take Missouri, but there are some reservations.
We know who Chris is really playing to. He's playing to that at Mizzou MBB Twitter account. He's trying to get himself a little screen time with the Tigers, no doubt. But finally, Chris does me a favor here because Missouri fans have been begging me not to pick them. They've been begging for the kiss of death in the opposite way. All of us to pick Ole Miss. But Chris, you are the one who's thrown a wrench in that plan. Not me this time. Not me. Ole Miss. I have been begged to pick them by Missouri fans. Ole Miss. I'm going to say it again. So remember, who's the person who picked Missouri in this one that prevented Missouri win with the Southeastern 16 kiss of death? It was Chris. All he had to do was pick the Rebels. Didn't do it. Ole Miss.
Wow. Okay.
Continue on.
All right.
I got to keep pace with Max. I got to keep pace with Max. If he gets this one right, I got to keep pace with him. So we need to, So, but it's more about Missouri fans wanting me to do the right thing here. Chris couldn't do the right thing. I am doing the right thing. Okay.
Yeah, we have a 1-game separation between each of us in the picks contest. Yours truly coming in last here so far. Maybe I can make up some ground with this one. Let's see if we can make up some ground with the next one. Probably not.
Give me the
LSU
Tigers.
goes to Coleman Coliseum. Boy, if I were to pick a spot to make up some ground, this would be it.
It would be.
Spoiler alert, I have a hard time seeing LSU winning this spot, as particularly with Alabama's size inside. And by the way, the game tips off 7:30 SEC Network in Tuscaloosa.
Probably going to be the largest spread of the night. It's definitely the largest Ken Pom projection, having this as a 16-point game, and Bart Torvik, it's even worse. They have it out at 19. I would be shocked to see a lineup near 19, but I think that's just kind of setting the stage for the matchup kind of discrepancy that we have here. I've been mentioning it less just because he's been out, but you insert Jalen Reed into a preview of this game, and it opens up just at least an avenue of resistance for LSU down low. You take out him and you put all the weight of that Alabama front court that's going to come in waves on Damian Collins, freshman Corey Chest, Derek Fountain. I don't see the front court resistance holding up for the Tigers.
I mean, we talk about, I love my series history. But Alabama has had more success against LSU over the past couple of years than maybe any team out there because we may have brought this up last year. Alabama has now scored 106 or more points in 3 of their last 4 games against LSU. They scored 109 last year in Baton Rouge, won 109-92. They scored 109 last year in Tuscaloosa, won 109-88. They scored 106 the year before in Tuscaloosa, won 106-66. Now, there was the 79-69 outlier in 2023 in Baton Rouge. Alabama still won that game. So, I mean, the Nate Oates offense has just had success against LSU. And if you're looking at the matchup here as it stands right now, what are the reasons why we would not think that would happen again? Statistically, there's just not a lot, unless you just want to lean on LSU's defensive numbers from 2, which they're allowing 43.8%, 11th in the country. We know Alabama is as good as it gets pretty much there, 61.2% on the offensive side. I don't have a lot more to add here. I think this is just, it's really hard to see LSU keeping up with Alabama from an offensive standpoint in this game.
Picks?
Yeah, LSU, when you look at their numbers in conference play, highest score so far has been 78. Going to have to get way over 78 if they want to keep pace, and I don't see their path to do it. Tied here, easy.
Yeah, I feel like we shortchange LSU a little bit here and there, and that's not really LSU. It's just a product of the conference, and somebody's got to be at the bottom. That's just LSU's fate this year. They've been in most of these games, guys. I think that's a credit to Mac McMahon and that roster, but I just think it's not a team that's super strong inside, and Alabama's length right now is just giving people fits. Give me Alabama here.
Yeah, like you said, they have been in some of these games, but I think now the difference is that while they've played good offensive teams like a Missouri, like, even a Texas A&M at times, they've not played an offensive team like this yet in Alabama. The way they're clicking right now and going on the road and trying to stop them and needing to probably win this game in the 70s, it's just not a good recipe for success. So, Alabama.
All right, the finale, Oklahoma goes to Arkansas. Both teams just snapped conference losing streaks. Oklahoma got one a week ago, so it will be fresh in this one with an 82-62 home win over South Carolina. Meanwhile, Arkansas finally snapped a skid with a last-second win on, Wednesday night over Georgia. So let's talk about this one. Max Barr, get us started. And by the way, this will be 7:30 Central, ESPN2.
Feels like Oklahoma has played this game already. At home, they hosted Texas A&M without their star point guard, and they lost by 2 in a crazy game where Bryson Grine scores 34 points on 9 of 11 from the three-point line. They shot 14 of 24 as a team, did Oklahoma. 58%. This time, they're going to be on the road. So, it's going to be even a little bit harder. But what I'm trying to say is we have seen this Sooners team play a team that's without their point guard that will now not play a guy under 6'4", and they struggled with the physicality. So we do have that to pull on.
Yeah, that's a good point. And look, I said it in our reaction on Thursday. I don't want to undervalue the idea of what a win like that for Arkansas can do moving forward, especially this was the biggest week of their season, as we hyped it up all week. Like, they got to beat Georgia and they got to beat Oklahoma. It's not a one or the other. It's both. Like, they've got to win both of these games. And so now you're a little confident because you've gotten one of those, right? And finally, for the first time in a month, you have some confidence, and I'm sure that is what Cal is trying just to drill into this team right now, is because, hey, this is all you needed maybe just to get going. Just something like that, something to go right for once. And look, for Oklahoma, they kind of got that too in that South Carolina game where they're finally, all right, something went right for us. We come back, have a great performance after an 0-4 start. And so, yeah, like two teams that I think are at least like, hey, one of us is going to get to 2 wins after this. And, that's important, right? And so, I think this is, intriguing for a lot of reasons. And I know people are going to look at the records and just say, well, come on, these two teams are really struggling. But, hey, whoever wins this game, all of a sudden you're looking up saying, hey, we just got to get 2 more to get back to 500 in this league. And we said that's really the magic number this year. You get to 500 in the SEC this year, you're going to the NCAA tournament. So Oklahoma's got a closer path than Arkansas does right now, but I'm intrigued by this matchup here.
Interestingly enough, in conference play, according to Ken Pom, it is the next to worst offense versus the next to worst defense. So teams going at each other, that's Arkansas's offense versus Oklahoma's defense, where neither of them are very good, which kind of indicates maybe a look at the other side. So I don't know if you want to get into that or just go straight to picks.
Well, this is also a Arkansas team that just rebounded the ball like I haven't seen them rebound in a long time against one of the most physical teams in the league. 18 offensive rebounds. That's a 45% offensive rebound rate. That's talking Texas A&M numbers right there. And if there's one thing Oklahoma struggles with, probably their biggest struggle is rebounding. So,
all right, picks. I'm fascinated by this one. I don't know where you guys are going. This is an interesting one here.
Ken Pom has this projected as a 3-point victory for Arkansas at home. And then Bart Torvik has it projected also as a 3-point victory. So you're probably going to get a 1-2 possession favorite here for Arkansas. But I'm going to go with the road dog here. I think that Porter Moser, off of a midweek off, I think he's a heck of a coach. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches we have in this league, what he's doing with this Oklahoma team so far. You give him the week off. You get to see one game without Boogie Flan. What did Arkansas? They just threw every trick in the book they had to win that game. So now you get a game of scout without Boogie Flan, how they're playing without him. I'll take another road dog here. It's scary, but I'm going to do it. I'll go Oklahoma.
When in doubt, I generally tend to go with the team that I trust to score more, which is Oklahoma. I'm not going to do that, though. And I didn't think I was going to do this, but Oklahoma's only been on the road in true road environments, twice? Lost 107-79 at Alabama. Hey, that happens to a lot of teams. And also lost to Georgia 72-62. And look, Arkansas, we know about the offensive issues. We've hit those backwards, forwards, and sideways. But one thing it does do is defend. And Thero is a guy that can get you to a win by sheer force of will. I'm going to go Arkansas here.
Wow. You know, my motto in the Pick'em contest is when in doubt, stick with Max, because that means I can't drop further down, the standings. Like, that's kind of my motto. So I've already implemented that on this video. But believe it or not, when in doubt now, stick with Chris Lee, because
what?
Yeah, but that's going to be clipped a lot.
I'm surprised too.
the chances of me ever saying that again are very slim. But I just, again, I think Oklahoma has certainly been better this season. I will agree. Like, they've been better. But if I'm looking at this and still from an overall talent standpoint, and I'm thinking, what if Arkansas can just get something out of that Georgia win? They come back home. Do we see that switch flipped a little bit now for them? I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I'm like, you brought up, Chris. It's like, okay, the Arkansas offense has struggled, but man, that Oklahoma defense hadn't been great. So I'm going to pick Arkansas in this one. And so there's your separators. Missouri, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Oklahoma. Let's see what the pick'em looks like after this Saturday slate in the SEC.
All right.
We'll be here to talk about it Saturday night. Please hit the subscribe button. That costs you nothing. And if you enable your notifications, that lets you know when we go live with content, when we put something out, whatever. For Max Barr and Blake Lovell, I'm your host, Chris Lee. Thanks for watching our basketball content here at Southeastern 16. God bless you. Stay safe in this cold and sometimes nasty weather. We'll see you again soon with more content here at Southeastern 16.